two titles which have arguably been on the top of many shonen lists in the past decade have been around the halfway point, so to speak, climactic war in which encompasses the whole world and characters, and every action up to that point has led to this climactic finale. For One Piece, it is Marineford, as the Whitebeard pirates try to save 2nd Division Commander Porcus the Ace from public execution by the Marine forces, with Luffy and the inmates joining, or more accurately, falling out of the sky to achieve their own agendas. As the clash of Whitebeard and the Marines has all the eyes watching in the world, it can truly be seen as an all-encompassing war. In Kingdom, through Keen's various clashes with the states of Wei and Zhao, losing the pivotal great general of Oki and Bio, and their various assassination plots against El Say, the time was ripe for a coalition of 5 other states to finally clip the wings of Keen in western China. What separates the two is the emotional attachment, as many of the characters in Marineford were new and the audience had little knowledge of most of the characters apart from Luffy, Crocodile, Buggy, Garp and Ace. Shanks and Blackbeard would become vital later in the arc, but at the start these were 5 characters that the audience knew and loved. Now I'm not saying the characters featured in the war were not important, like Whitebeard and the Admirals, just that there was little to go off, and the exploration of their character would come either during the war or after. There were too many unknown players when it came down to it. The majority of characters were too new to have any impact or any resemblance of attachment. Now compare this to Kingdom, where we have one side Keen, which the past 300 chapters has been dedicated to expanding the audience's knowledge of the Keen forces, from Oki's remnants of Toe and Company to the King's Palace, Rifyu and his 4 pillars, and Elsei and his followers of Shobakun, who for the first 100 chapters of the series was focused on their plight. We also have both Jukayo and Kanki, who have had their own separate arcs, and that they got more developed in this arc, making a real difference on not only the story but on the characters, especially the ones in the High Shin unit. From this, as a comparison of One Piece and Kingdom, the problem the former has, the latter excels in the larger cast. As even though Marineford starts at chapter 550, most of the characters that featured had little to do with the main storyline of the Straw Hats, and any action which did take place affected the rest of the world and not the Straw Hats who we had been following. Another thing is that the mentions of the characters were only in passing, like Garp giving some exposition of the 4 emperors in the Return to Water 7, and the Warlord meeting during Skypiea, which introduced 3 key characters of Kuma, Don Flamingo, and Sengoku. All these moments had no direct consequence to the main storyline, and will not be referenced until the decades later, where the anticipation of these moments passed and their characters no longer seem as interesting. Compare that to the story of the first 250 chapters of Kingdom, whereas we have a major internal strife in Keen, leading to a coup with several major figures being highlighted for the audience to keep an eye on, most importantly Oki. Then we had our first major battle against Wei, where it introduced to both Jukayo and the looming threats of Wei as a constant rival. And then we had the majorly influential actions of Bio, where 2 key powers of Keen and Zhao went to war. This battle showed 4 things: the death of the key figure in Oki, the rise of Zhao and the introduction of Ruboku, the loss and fear from all the other states now that the most feared man in China had passed, and the tension that had amassed from this sudden blow to Keen's strength, and finally, the anger that Shin and his unit felt from losing such an influential figure. Then we had the Battle of Sanyo, which is more of a character arc from Shin and the High Shin unit, but it did give us emotional and interesting character attachments to many of the Keen forces, like Mogo and the other rookies rising through the ranks. Also, this introduced us to Osen and Kanki, major figures with a long burn. So it's quite obvious from my explanation of the setup of the two that Kingdom completely defeats One Piece. But really, that's not a fair comparison, because how the two connect, world building to the main characters' stories, are different. And yes, I do regard One Piece pre-time skip as one of the best pieces of fiction, but it's mainly my connection to the characters of stories and having a major arc centered around characters we barely know, like Ace, who's only briefly seen on a couple of chapters and cover stories, and now Oda expects us to have an emotional attachment to him and his death that I believe to be a poor decision from the One Piece team. Another struggle that Marineford has compared to Kingdom is the fights, or lack of fights in Marineford. There are only skirmishes in Marineford, which is ridiculous for a battle shown to have no actual chapter spanning fight in its most, as many people would believe, poignant arc, whereas Kingdom's coalition arc had some of the best fights in manga history, from Jukayu vs Hoken to Mobu vs Kenma, being the standouts in both emotional and physical stature. Whereas in One Piece, we only had small moments that didn't last more than 2 pages, like Crocodile vs Don Flamingo, or Garp taking down Marco, or Shanks blocking Archimedes' punch. It's disappointing, as Luffy, the main character, didn't have any fights and was just punching fodder and dodging using Conqueror's Haki, the fodder destroyer, as I like to call it. But apart from that, the action was lacking. Though one of the most underrated moments, I believe, in Marineford has to do with Sengoku. Firstly, revealing Ace's father being Roger, then revealing his Buddha form, and then taking on all the Blackbeard pirates, and finally stopping Garp, which is one of my most love-hate moments in the series, because it shows the strong relationship him and Garp had. But I and most of the community would have loved to seen Akiuno get the shit beaten out of him. I think the only fight you could say happened is Whitebeard versus the 3 generals, and especially his fight against Akiuno after Ace's death, which saw Oda truly show pure rage in a chapter, and better shown in the anime. Though when it comes to how the fighting was set up and utilised, One Piece can be considered one massive clusterfuck, where strategy was thrown out the window to succeed in their goal, and the Whitebeard pirates just relied on Oars Jr. to climb and break a wall. And then the only reason why the Whitebeard pirates got to Ace was because of Luffy and Jinbei, and without Luffy breaking Jinbei and himself out of Impel down, the Whitebeard pirates could truly be regarded as fucked. Now compare that to a series which all of its main battles are coordinated masterpieces, with the slightest misstep causing thousands of deaths and key losses. Now when we look at Kingdom, the build-up and the reason why the coalition forces came together was because of the capture of Sanyo and the critical position for King to gain to conquer all of China, with Roboka realizing this and moving quickly. Now after the surprise attack we got from Shoboken, we get Shoboken and Shoheikun's strategy, leading to a 1 in 5 chance of surviving. Now, if I don't start talking about the amazing intricacies of Kingdom and the strategy, this will be a 40-minute video. I would just like to mention the last 2 things concerning strategy, being the echelon formation utilized by Mobu and the instincts of Jukayu to snuff out Roboku from leading a surprise attack from the east. Finally, we need to talk about death, and this is where both can be seen as equal, as we had in One Piece the deaths of Ace and Whitebeard, which had both emotional impact for the characters and the reader, just seeing Luffy in a catatonic state due to the shock of losing his brother, who we spent the last 60 chapters worrying about, Luffy just struggling to go on, to have the briefest moments of freedom and victory to be snatched just minutes away from escape is truly saddening. And seeing all of his allies trying to save Luffy from the Marines, from Jinbei blocking Aki in his fist to Crocodile covering him, it shows the camaraderie and importance that Luffy and his death has, as it would surely seal the complete victory for the Marines, and no pirate would allow that. And finally, Whitebeard's death, as we hear the narrator sum up his injuries of this proud man, who even in death stood tall and never retreated, really shows how good of a writer Oda can be. The social and political aspect was also greatly changed, as the strongest man had fallen fallen. Then we have the most impactful death being Ju Hyo, a beloved character whose charisma and astonishing personality lit up anywhere he went and lifted any soldier underneath him. And this could just be felt when we see the Haishin unit and the Duke Hyo soldier remnants arriving at Sai, distraught and lost, with Shin portraying these moments perfectly as he lost another person close to him, with many characters likening those two as father and son. And the actual death is just heartbreaking, as both Keen and Shin are finally balanced, and just lose such a beloved and keen figure whose last words spurred the rest of Keen to fight is gut-wrenching. I think to edge out these two, we would have to come down to the moments, not just deaths and fights, but those truly impactful moments that are scattered around these arcs. For One Piece, that would have to be Luffy arriving, the reveal of Kongorataki, so the One Piece is real, and Shanks blocking Akinu and his speech, to finally Blackbeard being able to obtain a second Devil Fruit, said to be the strongest paramecia, a real game changer in the One Piece world. All great impactful moments, but most seem fleeting and needed to resonate more with the audience and not just be passed by like any other panel. In Kingdom, all impactful moments are done with the greatest of services, from Duke Hyo stealing the charge signal right under Ju, to Elsei running the people of Sai, and finally the arrival of the Mountain People, which I believe to be one of the greatest moments in all of manga and anime history. So I think in this video, it is pretty obvious that I prefer the Coalition over the Marineford arc. I thank you for watching. I'm sorry for the delayed uploads, my channel just got another strike, and my videos keep deleting, and it's pretty depressing, but I should be uploading more soon. Thank you for watching, and remember, Yoshikage Kira is better than Griffith.